So now we're going to get to the topic of translation. And maybe the best way to start with that is just to talk about the title of your collected translations, Proteus Bound. What does that signify?
Yeah, so Proteus was a sea god in antiquity, and he was a shapeshifter. He's described in the fourth book of Virgil's Georgics as the sea god who lives in a cave, and he's sort of in command of seals and fishes and everything. And if a human encounters him and tries to ask questions of him, if you pin him down, he will turn into a tiger or a dragon or fire or anything else. So he's constantly shape shifting. But if you pin him down, he will tell the truth. And the truth that he tells in the Georgics is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus, the great singer, poet, whose beloved Eurydice is bitten by a snake and so dies and goes down into Hades, the realm of the dead. Orpheus is very distraught. He travels down as Hermes. He's called a psychopomp. He's the guide of souls, as we mentioned earlier. Psychopomp is guide of souls. Because he leads the dead souls down into Hades. We see this in book 24 of the Odyssey, for instance. He's the only god who can move between the three discrete realms, right? He can move between the realm of the gods on Mount Olympus, he can move into the realm of humans, and he can go into the realm of the dead. He's the only one who has that ability. So Orpheus, very much in the manner of Hermes Mercury, the psychopomp, goes down into the realm of the dead, and he strikes a bargain with the god Hades, the god of the dead, sometimes called Dis or Pluto, meaning wealth. Wealth came out of the ground, right? Gold, silver came out of the ground. So he goes down there and he sings so beautifully. He charms Cerberus, the three-headed dog, and all the ghosts come around to listen. He sings so beautifully, and they say, "Well, you sing so beautifully, you can take Eurydice back to the realm of the living." And there's one condition, which is that you can't look back until you get above ground. And
Right.
so Orpheus leads her out, and of course he's so sort of uxorious. He's so concerned for her as they're walking back up toward the realm of the light. But just on the verge of the light, he looks back to make sure she's okay. And of course, then she's immediately stolen. So Orpheus has long been a figure for the poet. The poet goes down into memory. It is a kind of catabasis or a descent into the realm of the dead. My friend Ernie Hilbert has a fine poem where he writes that memory is nothing but a bunch of ghosts, something like that. That entering this realm of the past is what the poet always does. And the poet tries to sing beautifully enough to give the past, the memory, some life. And a good poet gets pretty near that. You can take an experience and more or less bring it to life where other people can experience it and share in it, but you can't quite ever do it. It's never quite the real thing. That is, poets don't raise the dead. We are not
Right.
Jesus. Uh, he's sort of the one who does that. We don't get to do that. We get close, right? There's in a sense, right, in a figural sense, not a literal sense, in a figural sense. And anyway, so that's the story that Proteus tells, is about this poet and how his beautiful song almost is able to bring the dead back to life. And I think that is what every poem is saying. Every poem is saying some aspect, whether it's personal or not. It doesn't have to be, factually true, autobiographically. It can be a feeling, whatever. It's something a poet has felt, or thought or experienced or seen, you're trying to bring back to life with a song. And the song is, at its best, a kind of enchantment that creates the illusion of that thing being alive again, being among the living again, even though it escapes the grasp, as Eurydice does poignantly in Virgil. He reaches out 3 times and she escapes his grasp like smoke mingling in the air. You can't hold smoke. And so there's always this failure to poems, and there's always a failure to translation as well. Anyway, I like the figure of Proteus as a figure for the translator, because obviously in this book, where I'm translating poems from 7 languages across almost 3,000 years, I'm taking on a lot of different shapes, right? It's a kind of shape shifting. In one poem, I'm Homer. In the next poem, or in the, right before I'm Homer, I think I'm George Heim, who lived in the Fantasiacla of the 19th, 20th century in Germany.
Well, you move straight from Francis of Assisi to Baudelaire.
Right. so exactly. And yeah, so this moving across time, moving across personalities. And there's an idea in Aquinas that the human spirit is capable of becoming, in a sense, all things.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, that account of knowledge given by Aristotle and St. Thomas.
That's right. So in that sense, right, and what I would do is disambiguate. So what happens after, in the Renaissance, as the schoolmen are pushed out of favor for, say, the Baconian Neandros or new man. The new man was going to use reason to explain the entire world, right? And scientifically, it was working quite well. But when the intellect is reduced to the ratio, to reason, we lose so much of what's human. And this is what Kant is on about with the critique of pure reason, right? Where the focus is on what is intuitive, what's emotional, the ways of understanding that are not pure reason, right? And so if we go back to the schoolmen, if we go back to Thomas, right, we would talk about the ratio in the intellectus, right? The intellectus is a speculative faculty. And that speculative faculty is what enables us to become, in a sense, all things. Speculative from the Latin for mirror, speculum, right?
Right.
We see
by connaturality.
Yes, we see likeness in others. We see likeness in the world around us, and we're able to understand it in that way. So the imagination is a speculative faculty. Its telos is knowledge. It's not power. It's not practical, right? It is not a practical thing. It is purely intellectual. And the goal is to mirror, right? To serve as a mirror and to see what we might call, with Baudelaire and Emerson and some of the romantics, if we're not terrified to go there, we could go into Swedenborg's theory of correspondences as a way of just finding likeness, right? We don't have to buy Swedenborgianism whole, but a way of finding a likeness between creatures, between myself and a milkweed, myself and a stone, myself and a jaguar, right? And so poets are always doing that. And there are great poems that take on the persona of a milkweed and a stone and a jaguar. Because this speculative faculty finds these correspondences. And so the goal there is just understanding. It's just a way of sort of shape-shifting to understand parts of ourselves through the world around us. And translation is very much like that, right? That I don't agree with Sappho or Horace or George Heim about everything, but you can enter into a different space and discover parts of yourself while you're discovering other people.